Good morning. Today I'm going to discuss with some basic laws which are being used in statics. So statics is, it's a part of engineering mechanics wherein we deal with the bodies at rest. So when the term statics is used, you have to see that the bodies are at rest and forces are acting on a body which is at rest. And the next term which has to come to your mind is it concerns equilibrium of particles and bodies under the action of forces. Now, the basic laws which are involved in statics, you have already studied in your previous undergraduate classes, that is either in your plus 2 class or in your higher secondary. We'll be having a review of that, and these laws will be utilized for solving the numerical examples in statics. Of that, the first one is Newton's first law. All of you will be familiar with it. What is Newton's first law? Every body continues in its state of rest or uniform motion unless it is compelled by a force to change that state. So here, the state of rest, every body has the tendency to continue its position, and that property of a body is called by the term inertia. You might have studied it earlier. So the Newton's first law introduces the concept of inertia, and hence it is also known as law of inertia. So that is the first one. Then, so I'll come later, we have to make use of the second most important law in statics is parallelogram law of forces. You are familiar with parallelogram law of forces. What is it? If two forces acting simultaneously at a point are represented in magnitude and direction by the two adjacent sides of a parallelogram, then the resultant is represented in magnitude and direction by the diagonal of the parallelogram. I will illustrate it. Say a force P and another force Q. Both of them are acting at this point O, and the angle between these two forces is alpha. If the two forces P and Q acting at a single point are represented by the two sides, so you complete this parallelogram. I'm going to complete this parallelogram. Okay, with these two sides, we have completed the parallelogram. Then this diagonal, this will represent in magnitude and direction the resultant of these two forces. And the parallelogram law, I'm not going into the derivation and all, just reviewing this parallelogram law which nokumbo, the resultant R is equal to square root P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos alpha. And the angle which this resultant makes with the first vector P, or the angle which the resultant makes with the force P is given by the formula Q sine alpha divided by P plus Q cos alpha. Or this can also be put it in another form in this one. This tan theta is also equal to, I'm dividing throughout by Q. So it is sine alpha divided by P by Q plus cos alpha. You just remember this. So parallelogram law is applicable for finding the resultant of two forces which are acting at the same point, and the two sides of the parallelogram, if represented in magnitude and direction by P and Q, the diagonal will give you the resultant. So we'll have a small example based on this to familiarize you. Already you might have been knowing this. Still, as a review, say, check this question. Two forces P and Q of magnitude 25 Newton and 10 Newton are acting at a point. The forces P and Q make angle 15 degree and 45 degree measured counterclockwise with the horizontal. Determine the resultant in magnitude and direction. So let us first of all sketch this figure. Two forces 25 and 10. Okay. So first force is 25. Now see, the force P is making an angle 15 degrees measured counterclockwise with horizontal. So you draw the horizontal line. From this horizontal line, 15 degrees anti-clockwise. Counterclockwise means anti-clockwise direction. In this direction, you mark 15 degrees. So this is the direction of force P and its magnitude is 25. The second force is making 45 degree. So from the horizontal in the anti-clockwise direction, you measure 45. So this angle is 45 degree and this is the force Q. So I'll draw it once again with respect to the horizontal. First force P is making an angle of 15 degree. The second force is making an angle of 45 degree. So this is Q. You marked P and VQ. We mark these two forces and then you complete the parallelogram. You complete the parallelogram using this. Then the diagonal will give you the resultant. That is what is done here. This is P. This is Q. This is the resultant. How will you find out the resultant? What is the angle between the two vectors P and Q? The first vector is making 15 degree. The second force is making 45 degree. So the difference in between two, 45 minus 15 is equal to 30 degree. So the angle between the two forces is 30 degree. So P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos alpha. Substitute P square, Q square, 2PQ cos 30 degrees. So that will give you the magnitude of the resultant. Now, what is the angle which the resultant makes with first vector P? The angle which the resultant makes with P is given by tan theta. So this is theta. This angle is theta. Q sin alpha divided by P plus Q cos alpha. Q sin alpha P plus Q cos alpha. We'll get 8.45 degrees with P. So this resultant is making an angle of 8.45 degrees with P. So if you want it, because the other two forces are given the angle with the horizontal. So if you want, I can represent it as, if this is 8.45, 8.45 plus this much angle, 15 degree. 15 plus theta will give you the angle of the resultant with the horizontal. So the law of parallelogram of forces and application of it. We have seen the numerical example. Let us go to the next example. Is somewhat similar to this. One more thing. So question number 2, an application of parallelogram law. The resultant of two forces when they act at an angle of 60 degrees is 14 Newton. When they act at right angles, the resultant is 12 Newton. So determine the magnitude of the two forces. So here the resultant corresponding to two different cases. So we know the parallelogram law of forces, R is equal to root of P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos alpha. So squaring both sides, we'll get R square is equal to P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos alpha. First case, angle is 60 degree. The forces resultant is 14. So 14 square is equal to P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos 60. From that, we'll get cos 60 is 0.5. We'll get one equation, P square plus Q square plus PQ is equal to 14 square, equation number 1. The second case, they act at right angles. So this angle alpha is 90 degree, then it is 12. So 12 square is equal to P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos 90. Cos 90 is 0. So we'll get P square plus Q square is equal to 12 square. These are the two equations. What is required for us? The magnitude of the two forces. We want to find what is P and Q. Now the remaining things is just the application of principle of mathematics. How will you see? From this we get P square plus Q square is equal to 12 square. Substitute here. This 14 square is equal to, instead of this P square plus Q square, you put 12 square. 12 square plus PQ. From that we get PQ. Okay. Now I'm going to write the expression P plus Q the whole square. P plus Q the whole square is P square plus Q square plus 2PQ. P square plus Q square, from here it is 12 square, and PQ is 52 here. So 12 square plus 2 into 52, 248. So P plus Q the whole square is 248. Therefore, P plus Q is equal to square root of 248 is 15.75. Next, I'm going to write P minus Q the whole square. P minus Q the whole square is P square plus Q square minus 2PQ. So P square plus Q square is already 12 square. Here it is. And PQ is 12, 52. So we'll get P minus Q the whole square is equal to 40, or P minus Q is equal to square root of 40. So there are two simultaneous equations, 3 and 4, in terms of P and Q. Solving these equations, 3 is there, 4 is there, add the 2P, this will become 0. So 2P becomes 22. From that we get P. Once we get P, substitute in this equation, Q is equal to 15.75 minus P, will get 4.71. So we can get the numerical values of the two loads. So this is a simple example illustrating the use of parallelogram law. Next, I will pass on to another important laws. These are also some basic laws. We call it as equilibrium. Equilibrium means a body should be in rest. Equilibrium condition is the body should be in rest condition. For equilibrium condition, suppose a body is subjected to only two forces. For equilibrium, suppose this body is subjected to a force F in this direction. If it is subject to a force F in this direction, that body will move, isn't it? But if it has to be in equilibrium, it should not move. So there should be an equal and opposite force in the opposite direction. So when two forces are acting in a body, if they have to keep the body in equilibrium, the two should be acting along the same line, and they should be equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So the equilibrium condition, when two forces are acting in a body, is the forces must be equal in magnitude and opposite in direction, and they should be collinear, acting along the same line. We call it as collinear. LINEAR, collinear. Otherwise, there will be a moment. If the two forces are acting at different in different lines, the two will produce equal and opposite forces. They will produce some moment. Moment means the rotating effect on the body. So the body in equilibrium means it should not rotate. There should not be any forces in any direction. So equal and opposite forces, and they should be acting along the same line, so that total force will be 0. The resultant force will be 0, as well as the resultant moment will be equal to 0. Suppose a body is subjected to three forces like this. In case a body is subjected to three forces, F1, F2, F3, etc., in order that it should be in equilibrium for no moment, all the forces should be acting through the same point. That is one condition. All the forces should be concurrent. Concurrent means they are acting through the same point. The line of action of the forces should meet at a point. This is the condition for moment to be 0. And magnitude of these three forces should be such that vector sum of any two forces must be equal and opposite to the third force. That is a condition for F should be equal to 0. That is, if there are three forces, if F1 plus F2, that must be equal and opposite to F3, or the magnitude of F3 should be such that it should be algebraic sum of F1 and F2, but it should be of opposite nature. So three forces acting at a point, F1, F2, F3, they can be represented by the three sides of a triangle. So there comes the law of triangular forces. So the first force F1 represented by one side of the triangle. So draw a line parallel to F1 and proportionate to that. And it is acting upward, arrow upward. The second force F2, draw a line parallel to that. This is F2. And the third force F3. So the two sides of the triangle F1 and F2, the third side of the triangle will be representing in magnitude and direction the third force F3. So the triangle of forces is if three coplanar forces are acting at a point are in equilibrium. Coplanar means all the three forces are acting in the same plane and acting at the same point. That means concurrent. Three forces acting at a point are in equilibrium. Then they can be represented in magnitude and direction by the sides of a triangle, by the sides of a triangle taken in the same order. So that is the triangle law of forces. You are already familiar with this. So connected with the equilibrium of forces, you may be applying this triangle law for solving numerical examples. So if three forces acting at a point are in equilibrium, then they can be represented by the three sides of a triangle taken in order. So similarly, there is one more law or called Lami's theorem. The Lami's theorem is also used for solution of equilibrium of concurrent forces. So concurrent forces means, all the three forces are acting at the same point. So if three forces acting at a point are in equilibrium, then each force is proportional to the sine of the angle between the other two forces. This is Lami's theorem. Say force F1, F2, F3, three forces acting at a point. If they are in equilibrium, F1 divided by angle between F2 and F3, angle between the other two is alpha. F1 by sine alpha is equal to F2. This force, angle between the other two, the angle between F1 and F3 is beta. F2 by sine beta, that is equal to F3. The third force, the angle between these two is gamma. So F1 by sine alpha, F2 by sine beta is equal to F3 by sine gamma. So this is Lami's theorem. So these are the three basic laws. That is, when two forces are acting at a point, the parallelogram law of forces. Three forces are acting at a point, either the triangle law of forces or Lami's theorem will be made use of for solving the numerical examples in statics. We are familiar with this, so not going in detail for the derivation and all that. We are going to see simple examples on this. So now I have a equilibrium problem of concurrent forces using Lami's theorem. Go through this example. An electric light fixture weighing 150 Newton hangs from a point C by two stay wires AC and BC as shown in figure. Determine the tensions in the stay wires AC and BC. So this is a application level problem where we have to go, we are going to use the Lami's theorem. Okay, so a light fixture, an electric light, say from a point C, it is hanging, and the weight of the light fixture is 150 Newton. A light fixture, 150 Newton. It is connected to the roof. Okay, to the ceiling, it is connected by means of two wires, CB and CA. Two stay wires are connected to it. So if you are connected to this, it is subjected to a weight W like downwards. So these two will be subjected to tension. So this is the tension. Tension means from the joint, you mark an arrow away from the joint. So these CB and CA will be subjected to tensions. You're asked to find out what are these tension values. So we can see this tension in this CB, tension in CA, and this 150 Newton. All these are acting at the same point C. So we can apply concurrent forces, equilibrium of concurrent forces, Lami's theorem. What is Lami's theorem? 150 divided by the angle between the other two. Okay, is equal to tension in CB divided by the angle between 150 and this, and tension in CA divided by this angle. So let us see 150. I'm taking 150 divided by angle between these two. This is 45 degree. If this is 45 degree, this is also 45. If this is 60, this is 60. So this is a right triangle. If this is 60, this angle is 30. This is 45. This will be 45. So this angle will be 45 plus 30, 75. So 150 by sine 75, first one, is equal to tension in CB. We'll take tension in CB or BC, this line. Tension in CB, here written, divided by this much angle between this and this. What is that? This is 90 degree, this is 60 degree. So it is 150 degree. 90 plus 60 is 150. Now, tension in CA or tension in AC divided by this much angle. What is this angle? If this is 45, this is 90. So it is sine 135. Okay. So first one is, so you can calculate TBC. Consider these two. TBC equals 150 by sine 75. This into sine 150. So we'll get that answer. Similarly, consider the first and last. Tension in AC is equal to 150 by sine 75 into sine 135. So you'll get the tension. So this is the application of Lami's theorem for an actual engineering problem. Okay. Another one similar to that, one more I will discuss, because these formulas we are not going to repeat again and again while doing numerical examples. As we proceed with the statics numerical examples, you may have to apply any of these laws according to the situation. So this is just a review class. Now come another example. Two cables AC and BC are tied together at point C to support a load of 500 Newton at C. A and B are at distance of 1.3 meter and are on the same horizontal plane. AC and BC are 1.2 meter and 0.5 meter respectively. Find the tension in the cables AC and BC. So somewhat similar to the previous example. Two cables, say AC and BC, are tied at the point C. So all the engineering problems, you have to sketch it first. Once you sketch the figure, mark the angles, mark the weights, it will be easy for solution. So AC and CB tied at C, and a load of 500 Newton is hanging at C. So this is okay. And the length of AC is 1.2 meter and length of BC is 0.5 meter, and the horizontal distance between A and B is given 1.3 meter. So these are all the data given to you. I have represented all the given data in this particular figure. Okay. Now, say this be angle theta, this angle be phi. You see, I have given this length AB, length AC, and length BC. All the three sides of the triangle is known to us. So let me find out this angle ACB. We can check from here that this 1.3 square AB square is equal to AC square plus BC square. 1.3 square equals 1.2 square plus 0.5 square. So this angle ACB equal to 90 degree. This is a right triangle. Triangle ACB is a right triangle. So this is the AB is hypotenuse. So if you want to get theta, what you do? This is the adjacent side. This is hypotenuse of the triangle. So I can write cos theta. Cos theta is equal to adjacent side 1.2 divided by hypotenuse 1.3. From that we get theta. Similarly, cos phi. Cos phi is equal to its adjacent side 0.5 divided by 1.3. So we'll get phi also. Okay, we can see that if this is 90 degree, if we got this angle, this has to be totally should be 180 degree. 180 minus this plus this will also give you this. So we'll got the angles theta and phi of the triangle. Now apply the Lami's theorem. Single point 500 Newton, force in this, tension in this wire, tension in this cable. All the three are acting at a single point. So apply Lami's theorem. I have 500 Newton, this tension in this cable, this tension in this cable, 500 divided by this angle. This total angle is, if this is theta, you have seen this angle is 90 degree. This is theta, this is theta. This is phi, this is phi. By Lami's theorem, 500 by this total angle, that angle is 90 degree. There is no need for this. 500 by sine 90. I have already drawn in that figure triangle, this angle is 90 degree. 500 by sine 90 is equal to tension in CA, tension in this wire CA divided by the remaining angle, this much angle, this total angle. What is that angle? This is phi, this is 90 plus phi. Or since this is taken as theta, it is 180 minus theta, sine 180 minus theta. Or it is also equal to sine 90 plus phi. In both way, it will get the same. Similarly, TCB divided by this is phi, this remaining angle will be 180 minus phi. So TCB by sine 180 minus phi. So we'll get, solving this, we'll get the tension in the two cables. Now, these are the three basic laws which are going to use in the uh, statics, that is parallelogram law, Lami's theorem, and triangle law of forces. Now, coming to some certain principles which you have to commonly employ in statics. The first one is the principle of transmissibility. The principle of transmissibility of force. Transmission, that is, the point of application of a force can be transmitted along its line of action without changing the effect of the force on the body. That means I'll illustrate it. That is, say, consider a body. Point a force is applied. And this shows the line of action of the force. The line of action of the force is marked in this figure. This is the line of action. Force is applied at point A. What this law states is, from the point A, if I shift this force to this point B, I am shifting this force to this point B along the same line of action. The effects are same. Both this will produce the same effect on the body. That is, a force applied at point A, the effect which is produced by that will be the same as if the force is applied at the point B, provided the point B is on the line of action of that force. For illustration, I have shown here how it is happening. This is the first case. Forces applied at A along AB. In the second figure, equal and opposite forces are applied at B. At the point B, I am applying a force F in this direction, as well as I am applying a force in the opposite direction. So when two forces are applied equal and opposite, there will not be any change for that point B. It will remain at that position itself. But this F and this F, that gets cancelled, and that will become equal to a force B, force F acting at this point B. So this will be very, very useful in further solution of example. So principle of transmissibility is, the point of application of the force can be changed or transmitted along the line of action so that it will not produce any change in the body. So point of application of the force can be transmitted along the line of action without changing the effect of the force on the rigid body to which it is applied. So that is one important law which we will be using in further classes. Then another one law which is also very common is the principle of superposition. Superposition means imposing one over the other. Let us consider a structure, a beam. We call it as a beam. It is subjected to two loads, W1 and W2. Due to this two loads, W1 and W2, there will be some effect on the supports of the beam that you will study in detail when you come to higher classes. So due to the action of these two loads, suppose in a structure, the load in a beam will be transferred to the supporting beam, supporting columns. or the supporting walls. Say these are the supporting walls. Due to the effect of these loads, these two walls or the supports will have to carry some amount of force. That is called the reactions. Instead of considering all these forces together, what I am going to do is now I am splitting it. I am applying the first force, W1. So there will be some amount of reactions in the two supports, RA1 and RB1. Then I am applying the second force, W2. Due to that, it will be having some other effect, RA2 and RB2. So what it says is this total reaction will be equal to RA1 plus RA2. And this RB will be RB1 plus RB2. Otherwise, the principle of superposition is nothing but the combined effect of force system acting on a particle or a rigid body is the sum of effects of individual forces. The combined effect of force system acting on a body is the sum of effects of individual forces. So that will also be made use of in our classes, and we'll illustrate it, this law, more correctly at that time when we use it. Law of action and reaction. Similarly, that is Newton's third law. You are familiar with it. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is also referred to in statics as law of action and reaction. Suppose a weight W is placed on a smooth floor on the surface. This weight exerts, or the force exerted by the body on the surface is called action. It is W. The surface in turn applies a force. The surface or the resistance to this action by the surface is called reaction. So the surface exerts a force in the opposite direction, which is called the reaction. And two equal forces, they must be, in order to have equilibrium, they should be acting along the same line, and W must be equal to R, or R must be equal to W for equilibrium, equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So these are some basic laws and basic principles which you have to be familiar with in statics before going deeper into the portion in statics. So thank you all. Stop for the day.